Hi everyone. So I'm going to demonstrate how to use a watercolor approach of wet into wet technique. So I again forgot to bring my masking tape home, so it's terrible. I'm using some old masking tape. So don't do this. Remember your cream masking tape, not the blue, because that's for paint jobs for your walls. And to tape all sides. See, ideally I would like all of this tape. Two of the brushes I'm going to use are two filberts. My subject is a kitty. And I got my paper towel. I put out some extra watercolor. This is Holbein. I have right here Emma something done something brown. It's hard for me to read that because it's dirty. But looks close to burnt sienna. And then Scarlet Lake. I think that's a pretty red. And then I have shadow green watercolor too. These are all watercolor. And I have, ooh, we don't want hair. Ew. This is Mars Violet watercolor. And then we have Burn Umber watercolor. These are all Holbein. I got my two jars of water. I have hair everywhere. Oh my gosh. So some of this is old color on here. The gouache does need removed. That we're not using. But the watercolor you can rehydrate. Gouache you can't rehydrate, but watercolor you can rehydrate. So you can revive it with water. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take my small filbert and I'm going to dip just the tip of it in water. And I'm going to I'm painting it on my kitty, on the inside of the kitty, not the outline, the inside of the cat. That's the first thing I'm doing. Now that's wet. So the second thing to do is to mix up the color. So I'm going to take this black watercolor, and I'm not using a photo reference. I'm relying on my memory. But for the drawing of the cat, I did use a photo reference. But right now, I'm going to rely on my memory because I was looking at the cat while I was drawing it. So let's try. Oh, yeah, that's nice. Okay. So this is called a saturated color. So it's a deep value. It's very dark. If it was a wash, it'd be really, really light. But this is what I want because he had deep, rich, beautiful color fur. There. See where the wet paper is? Where I wet it, excuse me, where I painted the kitty with water. And see how it bled like that? So now, to get those edges of his ears, I'm just using the side of my brush, just the tip. I'm carefully blocking in this color. See, I'm manipulating my brush. Here we go. Now, when this dries, I can go back over it too. But I want him to be dark also. So, oh, this is great. Love how it just, that's pretty. Yeah, it's dirty water now, so here. Now you don't want to, unless if you want to, that's okay, but you don't want to keep pushing and pulling everywhere because again, like when this dries, I mean, I can go back over and I could do like wet media on dry paper too. Or if you wanted to leave it as wet into wet and not do any further with it, that's okay. But I really want even more like of a rich uh, color, even more like luscious to like describe this little fur. And then I'd like to use wet into wet in the background also. Um, but I'm not going to do that right now while this is wet because then it would bleed. And I'm just, yeah, I'm just not going to do that. I'm just going to wait. Yeah, so I didn't end up using my bigger brush. I'm just using my smaller filbert. Okay. So then again, so this is wet into wet. So the first thing I had was my line drawing, right? And then I took water and I went over the cat so it was wet. Then I took my color, which was wet, and I applied it on the wet surface. Now, if I wanted to, but I don't want to, I could take another color and put it into what's already wet here, and that's also wet into wet. And you could further develop it that way. But I want to wait till this dries and then go on top in certain parts of the cat. And then I want to do wet into wet in the background after I'm done with the certain parts of the cat because I don't want any bleeding. I want this will be a pretty like pale green in the back. All right. Thank you.